Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The former WBC champion Deontay Wilder has changed tack, moving from accusing Tyson Fury of cheating and also explaining away how the loss against Fury in the rematch was others' fault rather than his performance, now trying to appeal to Tyson Fury's nature. So see here on screen. This is a message that he's sent to Fury publicly via social media saying, "Hey, at Tyson Fury, don't worry about me. I'm fine. Blessed. The only thing I want from you is for you to honor your agreement and fight me. I gave you 2 shots when I didn't have to, and it changed your life. Now it is time for you to be a man and give me my shot as you agreed to." Deontay Wilder's statement. First thing, he says he's fine. Is he really? Is he? Some of his recent statements and accusations would suggest otherwise, but this video is not so much about that, but he led off with that, so, you know, it did sort of warrant a comment, because certainly some of the things he said has got people wondering about his state of mind, given it's, what, 7, 8, 9 months after his loss to Fury, and he's still saying certain things that he was saying after the fight, and seeming very bitter and twisted about it. Bitter and twisted, all shook up. But getting to the statement proper, and I know that, you know, some people get triggered when I'm, you know, questioning Deontay Wilder and some of his recent accusations, but you know what? It is what it is. Some of it, in my view, has been ridiculous and beyond the pale. And I know people get up in their feelings about that, and if you are, well, I'm sorry. Well, actually, I'm not sorry. That just is what it is at this point. But getting to the statement, it is true that Tyson Fury gave him an opportunity. So I think that there is an argument to say that, you know, given that there were the 2 fights, Deontay Wilder gave him the opportunity, that perhaps Tyson Fury should give him the opportunity of the 3rd fight. It was contracted, but, I mean, we come back to, we're hearing the contract had expired. So if that is in fact the case, and of which some of this is going to mediation and will result in some binding arbitration apparently, if it is the case that there is still a valid contract and there has to be a 3rd fight, well then it probably needs to be honoured, and I'm sure that it will be enforced legally if that is the case. But if it's not, because I have seen some people saying that this whole situation with potential mediation and binding arbitration, that if that is the case, then that proves that the contract is still live. We just don't know all the facts. We just don't have all the information. And the fact that the judge, a retired judge, is going to look at that, well, that will tell us what we need to know, because they will make a decision. So we can't say one way or the other. But from what we're hearing, the contract had expired. That's on the Fury side of the fence. And if that's the case, and proven to be the case, you still have to ask the question, how did Deontay Wilder and his team, especially Shelley Finkel, who's a lawyer and obviously been in the boxing game forever and a day, how did they manage to let the opportunity slip away and let the contract expire? I'll just throw that out there at the start. So, I mean, but apart from that, you could still make an argument that he should still have that fight because he said he was going to. So that is on one side. But the other side of the coin here was some of the comments that Deontay Wilder has made about changed your life, all that sort of stuff. It's not just a one-way street. It is also true to say that Deontay Wilder has benefited massively through fighting Tyson Fury. So it would be disingenuous of him or anyone else to say otherwise. It would be disingenuous to say that Wilder made Fury's career too, as Fury had already been a unified champion, dethroning Vladimir Klitschko from a long reign. Tyson Fury had already been a champion. Obviously, we know the circumstances of his career and him coming back. He fought Deontay Wilder in his comeback. And we have to remember from the time that it was a situation that both wanted to fight Anthony Joshua. Both were saying it would have to take 50-50 to get them in the ring, and both were not being offered that. Joshua's promoter, Eddie Hearn, would not entertain that. So they needed each other to actually raise their value. They both wanted parity with Joshua in the financial stakes, and one way to increase their value was to face each other. It made sense, and it worked. It worked for both of them. And remembering, after they had fought each other and raised their marquee value, Eddie Hearn had to come out publicly and say, look, the winner of the second fight would deserve 50-50. It worked. Fighting each other was their way to increase their value to get more in a big, undisputed fight. It was pretty clear that that was what they were looking to do. They did do it, and it worked. So it's not just a one-way street. Fury wasn't the only one who benefited from this. Remembering Wilder's profile rose exponentially, as well as his paydays. Remembering Luis Ortiz had been his highest payday ahead of fighting Tyson Fury for $2.1 million. Before Luis Ortiz, it had been, $1 million, $1.5 million, but the Fury fights changed his life too. Not just in a monetary sense, but also in other ways. And it must be remembered, the circumstances after the first fight, that also left enough to run it back and for there to be sufficient fan interest in that rematch. Obviously, the rematch didn't happen immediately because Fury went off, signed a deal with ESPN and Top Rank, fought Otto Wallin and Tom Schwartz, all that sort of stuff, in a year of fights that we didn't need, didn't want. But, regardless, there was enough interest for a rematch where they both got paid handsomely, somewhere in the vicinity of $25 to $30 million reportedly. And they were going to be getting, also big paydays for a third fight had it happened, and it may still happen, we'll have to see. But the winner of the rematch, Tyson Fury, was going to get 60 versus 40. So this has been a case that it's changed both their lives in terms of a monetary sense, opportunities, all sorts, what they can do now. Their profiles rose exponentially. But it's not just a one-way street. Tyson Fury changed Deontay Wilder's life too. And Deontay Wilder's career is going to be inextricably linked to Tyson Fury forever and a day now. And it's not just because he gave an opportunity, it's because they needed each other. I think that's a fair point to make. They wanted to increase their marquee value. Their management wanted to get parity for a Joshua fight, for an undisputed. This is just what it is. So Deontay Wilder wasn't the only one who gave opportunity. Tyson Fury gave it back by agreeing to fight him. So the what next now? Well, that's interesting because we knew that there was a third fight contracted, but apparently the contract was allowed to expire. And if that is proved to be a case, if the retired judge who's going to, do mediation or whatever decides actually that's true, then Deontay Wilder probably needs to sack his management. But what do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.